This is Zeta from Team Detective coming at you guys with a Mermail deck profile. Sorry I haven't posted any videos. Work, school, don't mix with Yu-Gi-Oh too well. But I'm back, and I hope you guys are having a good time with the current meta. I know I am. If you guys haven't understand this, I'm really being sarcastic right now, so I'm not enjoying it. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first card I play is Element Lord for the Water Monsters. What this card basically does is, if you have 5 Water Monsters in your graveyard, you can special this card from your hand, and you can choose 2 random cards out of your opponent's hand to the graveyard. So, I mean, practically, this deck likes to go second, but if you so happen to go first, your opponent is going to start with 4 cards. So it's pretty nice. He has a pretty decent amount of attack points, so it's a pretty good card to run. Another card I play is a Mermail Abyss Lead. This card is not as good as Megalo or the other one. He's kind of there for the beat stick, especially since you can send him to grave from Megalo and Abyss Gun. That way, Abyss Gun's effect go off and especially summon him back. But if you really want to know his effect is you can tribute off a Mermail monster and discard a card out of your opponent's hand. I mean, if you really just bring this guy out and then you do his effect to, tribute one of the other Mermails that you have on board, if you so happen to have any, I mean, your opponent's going to start with 3 cards, which is still pretty good. And then, really, this is probably my heart and soul of the deck, is 3 Megalo. You would have to play 3 of this card. There's just no way you could only play 2. You need 3. This card, basically, what he does is that he discards 2 water monsters out of your hands to special summon himself, and then you can add a spell tracker over Mermail. And his second effect is you could tribute off 1 monster on the field, and this card can attack twice. He's really important for the OTK, just because if you equip one of the equip spells for the Mermails, he'll gain 800 attack, which I'll get into once we get to the spells, and I'll tell you what the OTK consists of afterwards. So he'll be at 32 attack, so he can swing twice. This deck can easily clear board pretty easily, even if you do go second, and this card, all the better, is just a really just overall good card. Another monster I play is 2 of the Water Kaiju. Well, actually 3. I didn't like this card at first, but people have been telling me that I should play the Kaiju Slumber plus the 2 Dark Kaijus. I didn't like that very much because people were playing Allure of Darknesses, and Allure of Darkness is just not that good, just because half your deck would at least have to be dark. I mean, this deck is basically all water. You want to hurry up and get into the Megalos, the Element Lord. You just don't want to really see any darks unless you really need to get a monster on boards, which I came across situations when I needed to get a monster off board, like Chaos Max and stuff. So I mean, this is really just an out for Chaos Max. Plus it's just a card that can get rid of monsters for you. Another monster I play is Abyssus. This card, I like this card just because you can discard 1, and it really works really good when you don't really have another water monster in your hand. You can send him to grave. You can discard 1 water monster out of your hand to the graveyard, and special summon him, and then you can add a level 4 or lower Mermail monster. I mean, it's really good to ditch Dragoons because you get the plus off of it. You get a Prince to your hand. You basically summon Prince, and that's really just starts your entire play. So 3 of him. I tried him at 2. It's not as good as running 3. Like, this card would have to stay at 3 in the deck. There's just no other way. And I know what you're saying. How is he for the OTK? And just for the search, and you can use him for overlay material for 7s, which I'll get into once we get into the extra deck. Now, I know I said about Dark Monsters, but I do play 2 Maliciouses. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like it at first, but since when Coral Dragon came out, the plays really became real with this card, just because you can go into the 12 Synchro, and you can set a card and special summon level 8 or 7 Dragon type monster from your extra deck, which, you know, it's most of the time it's going to be Clear Wing or Gun Near for this deck. And something Clear Wing on first turn is still pretty good, just because, you know, I run equip spells for Mermails that negates monster effects. So you got 2 monster effect negators, and plus you also got the Mermail like XYZ that also negates monster effects. So you run 2 of this. I would not play 3. I mean, I would, if you guys want me to try 3, I will, and I'll give you guys some feedback on how good it is to play 3. But I really wouldn't want to. But if you guys really want me to, just send us a email. Now on to the 4s. I play 2 Dragoons. Like, this card's the heart. Really, just this card gets you the plays. If this card was any less than 2, the deck would just not be as good as it right now. What this card does is that if this card is discarded to activate a water monster's effect, he gets to add any Sea Serpent from deck to hand. So, I mean, you can Instant Fusion, Nodin, overlay with Nodin with Dragoons, detach for Abyss Dweller, you get his effect. And you would most likely, if you don't have Megalo in your hand, you go get Megalo. If you don't have the Element Lord, you will go ahead and search him out, or any monster you would really need. DC Diva or the Prince, if you didn't have him on first turn. I mean, this card is just so good. If it was at 3, this deck would be so good. It would definitely be tier 1 if it had 3 of this card. And he has a good amount of attack too, but you really never use him for just attacking. You just use him for the search only. Another 4 plays the Aqua Spirit. I didn't really like this card at first, but when you have Prince on board and you tribute him for Megalo, you bring back Dragoons because it will be your highest attack point monster in your graveyard that you could bring back for an Atlantean. And so you can remove a play on a water monster from the graveyard to summon Aqua Spirit to overlay to something else, which I'll get into what you would run in the extra deck in a moment. But you only really want to run 1 of this. You don't want to see multiple, so you just leave this at 1. Another 4 I play is Mermail Abyss Spike. I'm trying him out. I mean, so far he's doing pretty good. I mean, what his effect is that when he's summoned, you get to discard a water monster and add a level 3 water monster. I mean, it's not bad for if you need marksman to blow up the back row, which is not which is always pretty good. And it's really good against counter fairies if you need to get some of their cards off board. And he's a decent amount of attack with a 1600. 3s that I play are 2 Bisgun. I tried her at 1. I like it more at 2, just because, you know, Solemn Strike and Solemn Warning can stop Megalo and the other monsters that you reveal to summon. I mean, this is really just the card to bring them all back, and it makes your plays live again. But you don't use it for attacks or anything. If anything, if you would ever really summon this one to the field, you would use her for synchro material only. I would never keep this card on the field long enough for her to even attack. Other 3s are 2 Marksmen. I tried 3, but, you know, there's not a whole lot of players that use a whole lot of back row right now since, you know, Blue Eyes White Dragon. But, you know, Counter Fairies, this card's pretty good because it destroys all their sets. But I would no longer run no more than 2. And plus, you would never really summon him unless you really just had a bad hand in general. But overall, I mean, effect-wise, he's pretty good. For 2s I play 3 Infantry. This card you would run at 3 just because you would want to get rid of all their monsters as quickly as possible. I mean, of course, Chaos Max can't be destroyed by card effects, but, I mean, the rest of the monsters can, and you would just destroy everything you could with that monster. And just like all the other Atlanteans, if he's discarded by a water monster effect, he targets one face-up monster to destroy. I mean, all the Atlanteans have like a certain effect like that, but he's pretty good. Another 2 I play is Deep Sea Diva. What she does is that when she's normal summoned, she can summon a level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from deck, which is pretty good. I mean, this card's really good just because you get to summon the Prince out of your deck, and if you don't have it, it's pretty good because Prince is really what you need on first turn. I mean, other than that, she's also used for synchro material to get out Coral Dragon, which I'll get into the combos later. Now the next card is Prince. Prince is he helps you so much. His effect is you get to send an Atlantean monster from your deck to your graveyard to add another Atlantean, and most of the time you would send Dragoons, and Dragoons' effect will search out a Sea Serpent. I mean, this card saves so many plays and saves you so much if you just don't have a good hand. It's really hard to break with this deck. If you have him, it's just an instant unbreak. Like, I honestly believe that. And you would play 3 this card. You don't run 2. You play 3. This is the only card that I would say you never bring down no matter what. For spells, I run 1 salvage, 1 for 1. I mean, these are pretty standard since, water monsters, you could target 2 1,500 less monsters, and water monsters put them back into your hand. 1 for 1 for really just the prince only, since that's really your only target. I mean, those 2 cards are pretty standard. For other spells to play, 3 more agreed. I tried Max E. I don't like him very much. I mean, since if you go first, which majority of the time, if your opponent knows what you're playing, he's going to make you go first. But this card, what it does is that you basically take 2 water monsters in your hand, puts them back into your deck, you shuffle, and you draw 3. I mean, I like this card over Max C just because you get to draw 3 from it, and just doesn't really matter. Max C you would have to wait for your opponent to actually special summon, and I just like this card so much better. People are running this at 1, but I like it more at 3. Only because they're playing the Dark Kaijus and they're playing a Lord of Darkness along with it. I just don't like it, just since, like I said before, you would have to at least be half your deck be dark to actually use the Lord of Darkness. Another spell I play is Triple Instant Fusion. You would honestly want to see this card since you need Nodin. I mean, you would bring back Dragoons, of course, and overlay for Abyss Dweller to detach to activate really just Dragoon's effect, especially since, Blue Eyes uses a lot of effects in Grave, so I mean, Abyss Dweller stops a lot of those plays. And overall, this is just pretty standard to my build, I would think. Other spells that I play, these are quick spells. They're the Abyss quick spells. This one negates spells and it gains Mermail's 800 attack. This one negates monster effects and they gain 400 attack. People tell me I should only just run the spell one, but I feel like there's some monster effects on field that you just want to negate, especially when it comes to like sages or alternatives. I just think this card is just so good when you really just need it. So, I mean, you can search it as a searchable card for Megalo, and it's just overall these 2 are just really good. And for last spell play, I played Twin Twisters. Pretty standard since, this is an OTK deck and you want to get rid of their back row. Now for the extra deck, pretty tokens, even though I know this card's banned. Don't hate. Instant fusion targets, we run 1,000 I restrict and 1 Nodin. 1,000 I restrict, I'm going to be honest with you. People said this card was bad, but it's actually pretty decent. Just because you get to scoop your opponent's monster up if you can't really get rid of it. Like Dark Ball, for instance. If people have done this to me before, when I would go to my second turn, they would mass change into Dark Ball or mass change 2. I mean, this card just gets rid of that monster, and that way you would have your plays again. Apologize for the damage. This card I had for like a long time, and he's just been with me. When I realized he was legal, he tears. He did not survive the binder accident, but he's here now, and he is still playable. So, and Nodin's for the Abyss Dweller plays. But yeah, these 2 I would definitely run. For Synchros, I can't say his name, so I'm just gonna call him Ultima. But basically, this card is the reason why Clearwing is possible in this deck, just because you could use Coral Dragon and Destiny Hero Malicious. That's why I run this card. Just so you can put him in defense, you set a card, Clearwing. I mean, that play is still pretty good, just because. I mean, Clearwing negates, and plus it's Clearwing. It's hard to get over. For another extra deck card I play for 8s, it's Clearing Synchro and Stardust. Clearing Synchros, man, I honestly think if you're going to play the Ultima, you would play Clearwing. And Stardust, I'm testing him right now. I think
Crystal Wing, not Clearwing.
You know what?
Clearwing is level 7.
You know what? But you know what? You stay out of this. This is my deck profile. You can have your own later on. But he's right. This is Crystal Wing.
Yes.
I am sorry, but Stardust right now I'm testing. I mean, sure this card can negate destruction, but there's not a whole lot of cards that really just commit destruction except for Yang Zing and Twin Twister. But you know, against Yang Zing, when you open up with Stardust, I mean, it does stop the Metal Foes stuff they do, but that's only once. He might just come out for a better card, probably like for Moonlight or something. But we'll see. I'll let you know, and I'll update it if I do change anything. For a 7 to play, I play 1 Gungnir, just because he discards and destroys 2, which helps eliminate back row. And it activates Atlantean's effect since he is a water. For 6s, I play 1 Goyo, 1 Coral Dragon, and 1 Tiger King of the Ice Barriers. Coral Dragon is a must. If you do not have this card and you're trying to do the malicious, it won't work without Coral. You could run SL, but you would have to run Jet Synchron. But this card's a must. Tiger King, he's really good just because you get to bounce back cards and from your own back row, and he'll gain attack points. Especially since you would have to set things for his effect to go off. So you gain 500 attack for each one he puts back. So he could be instant 3,000 if you have to. And Goyo, if I can't go into the synchro play with Ultima, I usually do Goyo or Tiger, just depending on what my hand looks like, just for attack points for the OTK. But most of the time, I go in for Coil. For 3s, for synchros is Tatsunoko. What he does is that you bait a synchro from your hand, but yeah, that's about it. But most of the time, you would just go in for Coral for that card or Goyo, but that's really all he's there for 3s. Since most of the time, if you do use DC Diva, you would bring out the Prince. You can only really sync for 3, but that's about all I use him for. For XYZs, I play 1 Flare Metal and one of the Mermail XYZ. Flare Metal and this guy, they are really mandatory for the deck, since if you don't finish off your opponent, you can just do Flare Metal and let them burn themselves out, because they would have to activate monster spell or track cards effects to keep going to get rid of your board. And this card's really good first turn. If you're going first and your opponent, if you know what your opponent's playing, it stops a lot of their effects. That's about what I use him for. Nothing else. And for rank 4s, I play 1 Spider Shark and 1 Abyss Dweller. These two, this card basically, when you attack, you could detach a material, and all that monster loses 1,000 attack, which is attacked, which is pretty good. This is like another Alpha Chaos Max, except you would not attack with him. You will attack with probably Megalo, so he'll be 3,000. And even if you have 1 quick spell on him, which would be the 800 attack for spells, it would still be 32. He'll be able to still get over Chaos Max. And Best Dweller, he negates any effects in Grave when he detaches during the player's turn, which is still pretty good. I am sorry, I do not have the other extra deck card. It's in my binder, and I'm sorry, I'm lazy. But you also do play 1 Trish in the extra deck. I'm sorry, a little lazy. This deck does have a sideboard, and it's just the last equip spell, which this one just negates. It's the same thing as the spell one, except this one negates traps. If your opponent's playing a trap heavy deck, this card would come in handy if you need to just side out the spell if they just don't play any spells, and this card would help more. Well, that's about everything here. I hope you guys have a pretty good day.